There is no shortage of videos, blog posts, articles, and advice pieces out there arguing that DMs should never fudge dice rolls. Doing so, it is argued, is cheating or lying. If you, as a game master, ever fudge dice, they claim, you are a bad person and a bad GM. Have these people never heard of nuance? Welcome to Indeterminate Infinities, where we discuss multifarious aspects of the art of game mastering. My name is Gene. I wrote my senior thesis at university on the subject of the incompleteness theorem, first formalized by the logician and mathematician Kurt Gödel. Then I became a professional writer and information architect, and I've been DMing for 49 years. There is more than a bit of disagreement in the community of game masters on the topic of fudging dice rolls, and feelings can run high. I remember one YouTube RPG channel where the guy running it posted a video which some might describe as passionate, whereas I think the proper description should have been unhinged, in which he went on and on and on and on about how dare you ever fudge dice rolls as a DM. You could paraphrase the vehement, virulent, and vitriolic rant down to, if you use dice at all, you must always follow them. Otherwise, why use dice? I unsubscribed from that channel. And to be clear, I didn't unsubscribe just because I disagreed about whether DM should ever fudge dice rolls. It was the vehemence, which implied that this was a moral question, coupled with the insistence that it was a purely logical question. It was also because asking that question, why use dice at all, in that context, meant that he didn't have the faintest clue as why we do use dice in RPGs. People think we use dice to introduce an element of luck or fate, but dice can't do that. I'm going to come back to that point. For myself, when deciding whether I want to have a house rule in a game I'm running, I like to start by rereading the rules as written, so I know I'm making an informed decision whether or not to stick to those rules. In the 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide, also known as the 2014 rules, we find the following on page 235. Rolling a book behind a screen lets you fudge the results if you want to. If 2 critical hits in a row would kill a character, you could change the second critical hit into a normal hit, or even a miss. Don't distort dice rolls too often, though, and don't let on that you're doing it. Otherwise, your players might think that they don't have any real risks, they don't face any real risks, or worse, that you're playing favorites. The 2024 Dungeon Master's Guide, also known as Edition 5.5, has very nearly identical text on page 17, so similar that there is no point in reading it aloud. I am, however, going to quote from the 1st edition D&D Dungeon Master's Guide, published in 1979 and written by Gary Gygax himself, page 110. In many situations, it is correct and fun to have players dice such things as melee hits and saving throws. However, it is your right to control the dice at any time and to roll for players. You might wish to do this to keep them from knowing a specific fact. You might also want to give them an edge in finding a particular clue, e.g., a secret door that leads to a complex of monsters and treasures that will be especially entertaining. You do have every right to overrule the dice at any time if there is a particular course of action you would like to occur. In making such a decision, you should never seriously harm the party or a non-player character with your actions. Always give a monster an even break. The reason I quote from 1st edition is not because I believe that 1st edition is superior to 5th edition. Far from it. That particular paragraph from Gygax shows that there are many, dare I say, infinitely many, ephemeral issues involved in the use of dice. He talks about keeping a specific fact from players. That's because a sense of suspense or mystery is important in dramatic situations. He talks about entertainment being a valid reason for giving players an edge. He talks about rolling for players, whether in secret or as a general rule, and so on. I mentioned earlier my expertise in an obscure part of mathematics and formal logic called Gödel's incompleteness theorem. That's important because the incompleteness theorem is one of those concepts that most people have an extremely difficult time understanding intuitively. It's so counterintuitive that often when it is explained to them, people get upset and very argumentative. Similarly, people think that dice rolls are used in RPGs, war games, and the like to represent luck or fate. But dice rolls are not fate. Dice rolls are just random. And most people have an extremely poor intuitive understanding of randomness. True randomness is so counterintuitive that when randomness produces results that appear outside the boundaries of expectations, people get upset and argumentative. Neither luck nor fate can be found anywhere in the laws of probability. Luck and fate are human concepts we have invented to try to impose meaning on uncertainty. They are artificial constructs just like drama or fairness. We use dice to simulate uncertainty, but uncertainty isn't precisely the same as randomness. Don't get me wrong. The random outcome of a dice that has not yet been rolled is uncertain, but that doesn't make randomness and uncertainty precisely the same thing. Sometimes randomness doesn't conform to the uncertainty that you had in mind when you planned your adventure. Sometimes randomness dictates an outcome that utterly shatters any sense of drama, any projection of luck, any conception of fate, and any expectation of fairness. The final arbiter at your gaming table in any specific moment of play is not the rulebooks. It is not the dice. It's you, the game master. It is your job to create the drama or mystery in the adventure played at your table. It is your job to treat the players fairly at your table. It is your job to allow your players to take risks at your table. It is your job to give the players opportunities to make meaningful decisions while they attempt to resolve the drama of your adventures at your table. Deciding on rare occasions to overrule a particular dice roll in order to keep the drama alive, or to preserve player agency, or to keep the outcome of risks within expected boundaries of fairness is a legitimate and wholly acceptable tool of any game master. It could even be argued that a game master who unconditionally and categorically refuses to ever fudge a dice roll is abdicating their job. But that's a discussion for some other time. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please click the thumbs up button and or consider sharing the video. Click subscribe to be notified when new videos are uploaded. If you have any thoughts on this topic, and I bet you do, leave them in the comments below. Also, check the description of this video for links to some videos by other dungeon masters on the same topic. And until next time, keep dreaming